Hi, I'm Dr. Sledgehammer and today I want to talk about Thief, the Dark Project, one of my top 10 favorite games of all time. It's one of the best stealth games I have ever played, and if you can forgive the aged graphics, it's still as exciting as ever. While other first-person games from the era focused on shoot-em-ups and raw violence, Thief required patience, vigilance, and a very good strategy. It's one of these games that can have a really quiet atmosphere that makes you lose track of time. Thief was developed by Looking Glass Studios, a company mostly known for the Thief and the System Shock franchises. Now another connection you might not be so familiar with is the BioShock franchise. Irrational Game Studios, the company that developed BioShock, was founded by former Looking Glass Studios employees. Since I was rather familiar with the Thief franchise, I had similar vibes playing BioShock. I made that connection because both games tell their story by immersing their player into their tense atmosphere. In both games, you are constantly on the edge because of the general lack of music and the fear of being discovered.
Hey!
The first thing you will notice when you buy Thief on Steam or Good Old Games is that it lacks an intro and cutscenes. Now this is my first gripe with the game. It uses an old video codecs that does not work on modern systems. You require a community patch called tfix 1.27. There are other community patches of course that maybe can enhance your graphics and other stuff. I'm not gonna be using them here. However, I'm gonna be using the tfix 1.27 and you should be using it too because it's important for the game's narrative to have the cutscenes and for the atmosphere in general. You're not gonna understand the story basically if you don't have the patch installed. Now, I'm gonna be adding a link for the patch and the game in the video description below. Now, I personally own the Thief collection over here. So let's pop the game in, shall we? The game actually has a tutorial level, which is quite uncommon for games released in that era. Cutscene starts, as all missions do, by introducing you to the storyline, commencing in this case it introduces you to the main character, Garrett. The story is straightforward. You play as Garrett, a wise-ass pickpocket from the streets who is picked up by one of the Keepers, a guild of observers and seers who specialize in stealth abilities. They train Garrett to be one of them. One thing I have to say is that I find the way that Looking Glass Studios handles their cutscenes really smart. They knew technology was not there yet and told most of the stories in still images and mysterious poems. When animation is used, however, it's really effective because it utilizes hand-drawn images and makes use of the dark locations Garrett finds himself in. To be honest, I prefer this style of cutscenes over many of the more modern ones, because it adds to the game's atmosphere and style.
Welcome, young Garrett. In the nearby rooms, I will instruct you in the various skills you will need to survive.
Anyway, the tutorial is quite well made. It teaches you stealth, combat mechanics and movement within less than 5 minutes. In order to sneak up on somebody, there are two things you have to consider: visibility and sound. In terms of enemies seeing you, you have a bar at the bottom of the screen that indicates how visible you are. In order to reduce your visibility, you have to move into darker areas, or you can extinguish one of the nearby torches using water arrows.
Well done. I did not see you approach.
Open this door to continue.
When it comes to sound, there are different kinds of floor elements in Thief, some of which are noisy and some of which are not. Tile, metal and wooden floors are usually rather noisy, so it's best to avoid them when possible. Later in the game you get boss arrows that you can use to reduce the sound of your footsteps.
Very good. I did not hear you traverse the room.
Speaking of arrows, during the game Garrett gets all sorts of stealth items and arrows that would put even Batman and the Green Arrow to shame. I mean, look here! You have reusable rope arrows you can shoot in soft wooden planks to climb up, noisemaker arrows to misdirect enemies, gas arrows to knock out your enemies, fire arrows that can do high damage to your enemies, or light up torches. You also have mines, flashbangs, lockpicks, and lots of other things.
The Keepers were training me to be one of them, but I found other uses for those skills.
After years of grueling training, Garrett completes the Keeper's training and turns to a life of crime. From here on out, Garrett steals from the rich to make a living. This is where the actual game starts. The premise of the game is rather easy to understand. A customer wants you to steal certain objects from a nobleman in town. In return, he pays you a handsome sum of money for your services. Steal the object, and while you're at it, you make sure you steal everything of value you come across. And while you're at it, eat until your fat ass can't fit through the doorways anymore. Anyway, moving on. The first thing you will notice when you start a new mission is that you have a list of objectives in front of you that changes with the difficulty level that you select. In-game difficulty wise, I did not see much change between normal or expert mode. However, you are not allowed to kill humanoids in hard and expert mode. That is, servants, commoners, guards, whatever, you're not allowed to kill these, which makes the game much more fun because it forces you to find new strategies to sneak up on humanoids. I will advise you to select hard mode if you want to play the game, even if you're playing it for the first time, because normal mode kind of gives you a limited experience because it only has one item that you have to steal, so you're not gonna be inspecting the whole map, and expert mode can become quite tedious when you have a certain number of loot that you have to collect. After selecting your difficulty level, you can purchase items for the next mission using the booty from the last mission. In most cutscenes, Garrett straight up tells you the easiest path to enter. You can try and do it differently. However, I'd rather listen to the advice of the Master Thief himself if you don't mind. Okay, let's get this party started. I think this is the building I need to be entering.
A few too many to try to get by.
Not a few too many. Come on, Garrett, what's up with you? It's only 3 guys, let's go! You can take them. Come on, let's go! Oh, that's some massive damage right there. Ooh. World Star! What? Almost had him. That's what happens. As you can see, it is quite difficult to face this head on, but worry not, the cutscenes show you what you have to do. So I sneak up behind the guard into the sewers and make my way into the building. I've got to say, the tense feeling you get when you're hiding in the shadows for longer periods of time, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce on some fool, still holds up in 2020. Often you are unaware of guards nearby, the slightest noise, and you are in deep, deep trouble.
Wait, who's that? Thy trickery shall not last.
You just know you do not wanna be discovered. as gods drain your health rather fast, and a few of them will easily dispose of you.
Never fear, I shall spy thee out.
Hammer anvil falls in fire. Chase it.
Over there!
Hold thy...
This becomes especially hard on hard or expert mode. There you can dispose of the gods using lethal force, so you have to sneak up on them, so you can knock them the f*** out. Knowing all of this, you can get into really intense situations. For example, you've been waiting in the dark for the last minute for one of the gods to pass you by, only for another god to sneak up on you.
Just make one little noise.
Once they have proof of your presence, they will never forget about you.
Thou shalt not hide forever. I build thy retribution.
And if that happens, if they know you're here, you'll be sitting in a corner in the dark, waiting, hoping the madman goes away. But he won't go away, and you know it. You'll even stop breathing, hoping that Garrett also stops breathing. But it won't help you, and you know it.
I'll find you. Just you wait. I see ya.
Of course, you can always change the difficulty back to normal. You can draw a sword, draw an arrow, kill somebody. But then you're a pussy. Now the game has a wide variety of enemies. You have humanoids that you can kill, like commoners, servants, guards, and even mages that have a variety of spells that can kill you. Usually when you play on hard or expert modes, these are the only ones you are not allowed to kill. There are also critters and animals in game that you can kill without any problem. The game also contains various demons, fire elementals, ghosts, and zombies. Now let me tell you about zombies. These f***ers look like crap when you compare them to today's graphics, but they will scare the heck out of you. They can only be killed by either shooting them with holy water arrows or by blowing them the f*** up with fire arrows or mines. You can of course knock them out using the sword or the blackjack, but they will stand right back up and go after you again. Now in the playthrough for this video I found it much easier to deal with them, simply because I knew of them from earlier playthroughs. So I brought all the fire arrows, all the water arrows, all the holy water, all the mines I could get before I started each mission to deal with them. However, in later levels, for example Return to the Cathedral, there was a scarcity of fire arrows and water arrows in general, and I was scared shitless. Let me tell you about another aspect that makes zombies some of the scariest enemies in gaming history: their sound. The game only has light, ambient music, which makes you more sensitive to the sounds of your environment. The sounds of your enemies can be scary, especially if you do not know who, what, and how many are coming after you. Even when you see a knocked out or sleeping zombie, he is making sounds. And you do not want to deal with them, because they can only be killed with special weapons, and there is usually more zombies than you can kill. This is why every time you hear them moaning, you feel extremely uncomfortable. Moving on to the plot. This is the type of game that I really do not want to spoiler for my viewers, so I will keep it as general as possible. The plot can be divided into 3 major plot points. The first 3 missions deal with Garrett doing a job for a customer who gets himself captured. He finds out where he is kept and then tries to break him out of prison. He later learns of an even greater treasure that he can get his hands on, the Horn of Quintus, which is lost in a crypt outside town. The second major plot involves a series of thefts for a customer who wants to pay Garrett a handsome amount of money to steal an object for him called the Eye, which is kept in a closed-off haunted Hammerite cathedral in the old quarter of the city, a section of the city that has been infested with zombies and is therefore closed off from the general public. After arriving at the cathedral, he finds out it is not as easy to get his hands on the artifact as he thought. He needs 4 keys to get into the cathedral, which means that the plot of stealing the Eye spans over multiple missions. So you get the keys, you get the Eye, and you escape the cathedral. The final major plot point deals with the game's antagonist wanting to revert society back to nature, destroying modern society as we know it. So basically save the world. Moving on to the final aspect of the video, level design. The level design of each mission is unique, with a few exceptions of course. The first mission, for example, is one of my favorite missions of all time in the whole Thief series. I played it like 20 to 30 times in my lifetime. But if I want to be honest with myself, the level design was repeated in a lot of other missions, mostly missions in which you steal stuff from rich folks, and it was done better there. Except for when you talk about the Thieves Guild mission, which is sort of a DLC mission from the gold version of Thief. It's long, it's tedious, it's repetitive, it has a lot of backtracking in it, and major loot feels like it's some secret loot that you discover by accident. You have a mission where you enter a prison from zombie-infested mines. A mission in which you enter the house of an eccentric collector. The house has a unique design built by an insane architect. I mean, look at this The mission where you seek the haunted cathedral really nails the feeling of being out of place as you wander the streets of these abandoned quarters. The mission to retrieve the lost keys has you entering an opera house, a lost city found underground infested with fire elementals, 4 mage towers in which you will see some weird and a Hammerite station in which you pretend to be a novice Hammerite and you can walk among them undercover as you follow the rules that they have given you. When you return to the haunted cathedral, you help a ghost to be released from his curse, so he can finally go to the afterlife. There are of course many more missions that I will be not mentioning in this video as they contain many spoilers. However, I would like to talk about my favorite mission. This is actually the mission where you really learn to appreciate zombies in the game. It's called Down in the Boneheart. It's the mission where Garrett goes after the Horn of Quintus. Garrett knows a gang of thieves led by a man called Felix, who went after the Horn a short while ago, went down there. He's hoping to get to the Horn before they do. As he goes down, he notices the presence of the undead. The place is filled with traps. Garrett feels lost, trying to go deeper and deeper into the catacombs of the crypt. He is hearing a faint, distant music from afar. What are these heavenly tunes I'm hearing? As he travels deeper, he comes across mouth-farting dinosaurs that start to hunt him down with the smell of last week's dinner. Garrett finds the bodies of the thieves who got lost looking for the horn and were driven mad by its sounds. Garrett continues to follow the sound, and he finally gets to a Hammerite crypt. The thieves that came to rob the place over the years joined the undead to protect the horn from other thieves. Mouthfathers, enhanced by the sound of the horn, listen so intently that they ignore their surroundings. You finally find the horn, you climb up, and you steal it. The music stops, and you feel an empty feeling inside while you try to escape. Well, that would be it for today. In conclusion, the gameplay holds up quite well. The graphics, you will get used to them if you take the game seriously enough to complete it. The stealth element is fun, the plot is just amazing, the level design is unique for each mission and really an eye-catcher. I give the game a solid 9 out of 10. I almost have no gripe with the game except maybe for a few design choices, and of course the Thieves Guild mission from the gold version of Thief, which is, as I mentioned, tedious and long. I will advise you to buy the game. I will leave links in the video description below. In the future, if you guys want me to add a walkthrough or a playthrough for Thief, you can let me know in the video description below. We can think of something in the future if the channel becomes successful, but until then I see you guys in the next episode.
Did people really pay money to see this stuff?
Oh.